On this Tuesday night, defiance in the face of a fresh tariff threat from the U.S. president.
We need to stand up to the bully, and we need to hit him tariff to tariff.
Canadians, governments, business, labor will stand together to build Canada strong.
Canada hops on board a multinational fighter jet program, our country's role and goal. India's so-called cockroach movement gains momentum.
So this is one of the largest anti-government protests that we've seen in many years.
What demonstrators are demanding and why. Plus, baby boom.
I think this was a big surprise.
The extremely rare birth of identical quadruplets.
Global National with Donna Friesen.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. It is a relationship that has been full of shifting demands and abrupt policy changes ever since the U.S. president began his second term. And now Canadians are again trying to decipher whether the latest threat is just a negotiating tactic or a serious economic threat. President Donald Trump says within 30 days he intends to punish Canada by imposing 50% tariffs on billions of dollars worth of Canadian exports to the U.S. Everything from honey to hockey sticks, goods that are exempt under the existing free trade agreement, an agreement that President Trump himself negotiated, calling it the largest, fairest, most balanced and modern trade agreement ever achieved. Canada's premiers meeting in PEI are not impressed.
I'm tired of the bully trying to take our lunch money all the time. We always seem to be on our back heels. We need to be on the offense.
If you can't be friends with Canada, then you almost certainly do not have a friend anywhere in the world. And that is a very lonely place to be.
Canada's Prime Minister says he spoke with President Trump this morning and agreed to intensify trade negotiations.
Focusing on what we can control, building strength here at home, supporting each other, buying Canadian, and diversifying partnerships. The country is stronger. We're stronger because we're united, and we will remain united.
Our coverage tonight begins with Jillian Piper in Ottawa.
This iconic Canadian symbol is one of the latest targets of the U.S. trade war.
It almost feels like a bit of a shot at us Canadians, and really half our business is Canada and half our business in the States. So it's a massive impact.
The U.S. is threatening to impose a new 50% tariff on roughly $30 billion worth of Canadian imports on August 19th. Hitting a wide range of goods from hockey sticks and wigs to wine and dairy products, with no free trade exemptions.
Canada's been very, very tough on us over the years.
U.S. President Donald Trump frustrated by what he calls discrimination against the U.S., urging Canada to put American booze back on provincial shelves and stop enforcing dairy and auto quotas.
They need us to survive. Without us, there's no way they can survive.
This is part of the negotiations.
The Prime Minister tight-lipped on whether Canada will impose any retaliatory tariffs.
We will look at all options in terms of how we would respond if they do come into effect.
He did say he has agreed to intensify trade talks with the U.S. president, but gave no timeline or specifics.
We have made a series of comprehensive and detailed proposals about how to modernize CUSMA.
Those proposals seemingly not good enough for U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer.
The proposals are generally for promises to discuss these issues, which we're already doing, not to actually change these things. And for us, we want them fixed.
Though there is some U.S. opposition to the Trump administration's approach, arguing tariffs will also hurt Americans.
The U.S. and Canadian distilled spirits industry has long been intertwined. We don't want that tariff to be put in place as well.
Canadian business representatives warn the damage will be widespread.
There are no winners in this particular case. These are very, very tough times, and it makes it very difficult for future planning.
There could be even more tariffs still to come. A 10% forced labor levy is expected to hit Canada later this week, and Trump is also threatening another duty over Canadian wildfire smoke spilling into the U.S. Donna?
Jillian Piper in Ottawa, thanks. Canada's premiers meeting in PEI are all digesting what this could mean for businesses in their provinces. One irritant for the Americans is the refusal of the provinces, except for Alberta and Saskatchewan, to put U.S. alcohol back on store shelves. David Aiken reports from Charlottetown.
With President Trump, we need to stand up to the bully, and we need to hit him tariff to tariff, all the way across the board.
Ontario's Provincial Liquor Authority was buying almost $1 billion worth of American booze every year. But Ontario stopped that in March of 2025 in response to illegal U.S. tariffs on Canadian steel, aluminum, and autos. And the Premier says that booze ban is staying until America lifts its tariffs.
That is correct, 100%.
Most premiers are on board with that idea.
There is not a chance in hell that U.S. alcohol is going back on the shelf in British Columbia.
The Trump administration is also angry at Canada's supply management system. That's the system that protects Canada's dairy and poultry farmers from foreign competition. Quebec's premier says that system is staying no matter what Trump does.
I will defend and protect Quebec's economy, Quebec's workers, Quebec businesses until the end. And the supply management is something that is non-negotiable for me.
But not all premiers are so defiant. Alberta's Danielle Smith and Saskatchewan's Scott Moe are looking for more diplomacy, more negotiation, not more retaliation.
The ultimate goal isn't to counter tariff and further weaken the North American economy. The ultimate goal is to get to a renewed agreement.
But those differences will not derail this week's talk, says the Premier of the Northwest Territories.
Yeah, there's differences of opinions, but every time we're in that room, we're all pulling in the same direction. We all want the same outcome for Canada, and so I'm confident that we're going to continue to stay united in the face of these new threats.
Meanwhile, in related booze news, most provinces have finally agreed to permit interprovincial direct-to-consumer alcohol sales. That would allow BC wineries, for example, to sell mail-order products to consumers in Ontario, to let New Brunswick craft brewers export their product to Albertans, and give Alberta whiskey makers access to new markets in other provinces. But there is much more work to do to lower interprovincial trade barriers, and premiers will spend much of the day Wednesday here trying to do just that. Donna.
Okay, David Aiken in Charlottetown, thank you. Canada badly needs new fighter jets and just signed up to consider a next-generation stealth fighter jet being developed by the UK, Japan, and Italy. Canada is the first observer nation in the Joint Combat Air Program. It's not a commitment to buy them, but as Redmond Shannon explains, it does signal another shift away from reliance on the U.S.
This is the plane that Italy, Japan and the UK say will one day be among the most modern stealth fighter jets in the skies. On Tuesday, Canada's Defence Minister David McGuinty joined his counterparts from the three G7 allies in London to announce that Canada is the first observer nation on the project. It will allow Canada to monitor development, but it doesn't involve a decision-making role or a financial commitment yet.
There's no commitment to purchase, no obligation on our Canadian friends, but we're delighted that they're taking up this observer status.
This aircraft won't be built, fly or fight for years. Its main competitors in the Western world are from the United States. The jet would be a so-called sixth-generation fighter. Canada is only expected to receive the first of its fifth-generation fighter jets, the US-made F-35, this fall. Most of the 88 potential F-35 orders are under review as trade disputes with Washington drag on, and Canada is exploring replacing those with the Swedish-designed Saab Gripen jets.
I would venture to say that if we were not involved in any kind of trade dispute with the United States, we would still be signing this accord. We would still be joining as observers.
Getting involved as an observer makes sense, according to this defense analyst.
There is a clear interest on the part of the Carney government to try and diversify our defense linkages. I think the best way for us to do this is to do that by addition, not to curtail the arrangements we already have with the United States.
If Canada does opt to buy, it would likely have to wait behind the three core nations who expect to start using it around a decade from now. Redmond Shannon, Global News, London.
Ontario continues to grapple with what's shaping up to be the worst wildfire season on record, and First Nations are bearing the brunt of it. The remoteness of their communities makes them challenging to protect, and as Eric Sorensen reports, some accuse the province of leaving them on their own.
For many in Northern Ontario, wildfires have never erupted and spread so quickly as over the last 2 weeks. Satellite images show the smoke billowing southward. The threat is greatest for First Nations communities, which are remote and vulnerable. Much of the community of Whitewater Lake First Nation has been destroyed.
I cannot express enough sadness and despair for everybody that's affected. And again, the lack of resources that were out there to begin with. It's heartbreaking to hear everything.
Today, several chiefs said there was not enough warning and an inadequate response. Hundreds have been flown out on emergency flights to Thunder Bay, but many have had to fend for themselves.
The lack of communication and evacuation support should horrify all Canadians, and our community was on its own.
In the last 24 hours, 2 new wildfires in Northern Ontario have been confirmed. The total number of active fires in Northern Ontario is now more than 180, and it's in this region where there are more than 100 First Nations communities where many feel they're on their own.
State emergency.
The White Sand First Nations chief said members began leaving well before an evacuation notice came. Ontario's premier traveled to Thunder Bay on the weekend, saying he is sparing no expense to fight the fires, but suggested Tuesday that many communities are on reserve land. That's federal jurisdiction.
On reserve, the feds have the responsibility to take care of First Nations, but we're taking care of them. We're doing everything we possibly can. We have 155 fire crews out there.
But the chiefs say provincial leadership has failed. One chief called on Doug Ford to rebuild the bridges that have already burned.
So, Premier Ford, if you're listening, we need your commitment to replace our bridges to the community.
Many chiefs are now demanding a public inquiry into the province's handling of wildfires, a problem that's only getting worse.
We know wildfires are going to continue to happen, but devastation of community should not be happening.
The chiefs say the province must do more to prepare for the next wildfire crisis. Eric Sorensen, Global News, Toronto.
A doctor at Toronto's Hospital for Sick Children has been charged with possession of and access to child sexual abuse and exploitation material. 44-year-old Dr. Dylan Desanayake was arrested today. A profile matching his name was removed from the Sick Kids Hospital website. It says he was working as a staff rheumatologist. Police say they executed search warrants at the hospital and at a home in February and seized multiple electronic devices, including a work computer. Sick Kids says the doctor was placed on immediate leave once it was notified of the investigation, and it says Sick Kids has not been notified of any risk to patients and families, and the Toronto Police Service has indicated there is no evidence that the charges are connected to the doctor's medical practice. Police have broken up a retail theft ring in Hamilton, Ontario. 32 people have been charged, and more than $300,000 worth of stolen property was recovered. Project Checkout was launched after police noticed a 25% increase in thefts at local Home Depot stores. Investigators discovered an organized effort to steal high-value tools and construction equipment, which were then resold online below retail price. Police say they recovered hundreds of stolen items, including a 2021 Dodge Ram truck. 235 criminal charges were laid over the course of the 4-month investigation.
Get out of the car now! Get out! Get out!
Coming up, a driver pulled from a burning car with just seconds to spare. Body cam and dash cam footage has been released of this dramatic moment on a Texas highway. A routine traffic stop by a police officer quickly turned into a life-threatening emergency. Heavy smoke was billowing from the vehicle, and it burst into flames just seconds after pulling over.
Get out of the car now! Get out! Get out! Get out! Come out to the window now! Give me your hand! Give me your hand! Give me your hand!
The officer smashed the car's window and pulled the driver to safety, saving the man's life. The police department has since awarded the officer for his courage, quick thinking, and decisive actions. The U.S. Defense Secretary says America's war on Iran has cost the U.S. more than $37 billion. That conflict keeps escalating, and blockades affecting key shipping routes are again causing the price of oil to go up. The price jumped today to a 5-week high over concerns of shrinking energy supplies. Brent crude topped $90 a barrel, up from around $71 earlier this month. The flow of oil from the Middle East is under even more pressure now. Iran-backed Houthi leaders in Yemen are threatening to attack tankers if they use Saudi Arabian ports on the Red Sea, and they've declared a naval blockade against Saudi Arabia. Jackson Prosco reports on the latest effect of the U.S. war on Iran.
In this fragile moment, both sides seem locked on the path to escalation. With more Iranian strikes on American bases and allied infrastructure, after a 10th straight night of American attacks on Iran.
And honestly, they haven't seen anything yet. We've been nice. We've been nice.
Since the collapse of the ceasefire deal, at least 3 U.S. soldiers have been killed and up to 100 injured.
That they want to meet desperately to try and end it.
In the Oval Office, President Donald Trump became irritated when asked why Iran showed no sign of wanting peace.
You don't know what the dialogue is behind the scenes, that they want to meet desperately to try and end it because they're getting decimated.
Iran says they're now in a full-scale war with the U.S. And now the Iran-backed Houthis in Yemen say they're prepared to impose a blockade of Saudi Arabian oil exports, upping the pressure on global energy supplies. Mediators have proposed a 10-day ceasefire to allow for new talks. Trump is weighing that against a return to all-out conflict and vowed to strike Iran's Pickaxe Mountain, a key nuclear site.
And we're not finished at all, but if we left right now, it would take them a long time, years to rebuild.
Against that backdrop come the harsh realities of war.
Now, he is asking for $70 billion more, and for us to just trust him, it'll work out fine.
American lawmakers are being asked to greenlight more money for a conflict they never authorized.
Iran is at the weakest point militarily it has ever been in the past decade, certainly maybe in 47 years.
For both sides, it's now a question of how much pain they're willing to tolerate in a war that risks becoming a quagmire. Jackson Prosco, Global News, Washington.
Police crackdown on protesters ahead. What these young demonstrators are demanding from the Indian government. India's government is facing a rare challenge from its own citizens. Tens of thousands of protesters are demanding educational reforms and the resignation of the country's education minister. The youth-led movement started as satire online and has grown into huge frustration on the streets, and it's spreading throughout India. Nathaniel Dove explains what's behind the anger.
Blasted with water cannons, but refusing to leave. Roughly 5,000 people marched towards India's parliament Monday. Police and other security forces using violence to try to move them away.
All participants are requested to conduct themselves in a peaceful manner, refrain from indulging in any unlawful or violent activities.
Delhi police claim protesters were violent. This man says the officers' conduct and violence was shameful. Abhijit Deepke is the founder of the movement known as the Cockroach Janta Party. The name is satirical. An Indian Supreme Court justice recently referred to young unemployed people as cockroaches. Protests began in May after it was revealed someone in the government sold medical school entrance exams so some applicants could cheat. Each year, more than 2 million people compete for about 130,000 spots. Indian media reported about a dozen applicants died by suicide after they learned they'd have to retake the exam.
A lot of folks do spend years trying to prepare for medical school exams. Families, go into debt. And there are few opportunities.
The Asia Pacific Foundation's Veena Najibullah says the scandal inflamed growing frustration with corruption. Protesters are calling for the education minister to resign and for compensation for the dead students' families.
Nobody responsible for the paper leakage episodes will go scot-free.
A minister first addressed the matter only after the protests. Others are joining the students, like opposition parties and India's farmers, who oppose a potential trade deal with the U.S.
So this is one of the largest anti-government protests that we've seen in many years.
India's parliament resumed sitting Monday, and protesters' demands for action are growing. Nathaniel Dove, Global News, Toronto.
France is the first country in the European Union to ban children under the age of 15 from using social media. Lawmakers adopted the sweeping bill, which also includes a ban on cell phones in high schools and requires platforms to introduce age verification measures. The bill is a priority for the French president, who wants the law to take effect for the new school year in September. 1 in 15 million. What makes these newborns so special? That's next. It is one of the rarest births in the world. A woman in Australia has given birth to naturally conceived identical quadruplets. They're now a week old, and as Sarah McDonald reports, the parents are coming to grips with their growing family.
They're statistically astronomical. 4 babies, naturally conceived and sharing a placenta, born healthy in the 3rd trimester last week.
They came from 1 fertilised egg, which then split into 4. So the fact that we've got 4 beautiful, healthy babies born at 28 weeks and 4 days is incredible.
Dr. Alexa Bendall oversaw the high-risk pregnancy and birth of the identical quadruplets, now being cared for in the neonatal intensive care unit of a Brisbane hospital. The first known set of their kind in Australia. The odds of their conception? 1 in 15 million.
There may have been a couple of cases elsewhere in the world, and when I say a couple, literally a couple too.
Canada is home to one of those sets of naturally conceived identical quads. Also girls, now 10 years old. The Webb quadruplets, born in Edmonton in 2016 to Tim and Bethany, who may have some tips for the world's newest quad mom, Jenitar, and her husband, who already had 4 children.
Including one that she was breastfeeding at the time. So when they went along and they found out that they had 4 babies instead of 1, they were quite shocked.
Their brood now doubling in a big way with these tiny new additions. Emily, Harriet, Catherine, and Alexa. Named after, you guessed it.
They are very special. We are very excited to be able to care for this amazing little family, a big family now.
40 fingers and 40 toes, already making their mark as medical marvels. Sarah McDonald, Global News, Vancouver.
And that is Global National for this Tuesday. I'm Donna Friesen. Tonight's Your Canada is this wooden sculpture of the Canadian flag in a home in Lennoxville, Quebec. Thanks for watching and hope to see you here again tomorrow. Bye-bye.